Hey everyone, can anybody hear me? I don't really feel like talking to myself again. Right, if anyone's there, can they let me know whether this is actually working or not? People hear me? Let me see. Waiting for people to join in. Can people hear? Whoops, I can't spell. Hear me. Yay! Thank goodness for that. Okay. Right, we'll go back to the start again. It was funny because I was actually saying that I had Mordecai in here. I'm babysitting him at the moment, and I was just saying, oh, if you can hear any strange sounds, it would be because he's in here. And so when everyone was saying, no, I can't hear you, I thought they were all talking about him. But anyways, so we'll go right back to the beginning again. Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Leigh and this is Your Vet Online, and tonight I'm going to have a chat all about joint supplements. Now, I'm not going to be specific about any particular animal, so these are all about cats, dogs, horses. You can use these in most animals, and I'm not going to actually worry about talking about specific products, because that's quite hard, because every product has good things about it, has bad things about it, but instead I'm going to talk all about the active ingredients, because that's actually the most important part of any supplement that we're going to do. Now, just remember, animal supplements are, just like human supplements, a billion-dollar industry. And what amazes me so much is that basically, even though there have been huge studies done on a lot of human products, and even if the studies show that there's no benefit, a lot of people still use these products, which I find quite bizarre. However, people just keep on doing what they're going to do. So it could be the fact that you're wasting money and you're wasting time, and you could be putting that money to better use using a different supplement or using no supplements at all. So yeah, that's one of those confuddling things about our industry sometimes. Now, some of the views that I'm going to put across here tonight are my own. I don't speak for every vet. So if you want more information, you're most welcome to ask me, but also realize that you can please talk to your own vet and get their opinion as well, because they know your animal intimately, and they will know what things may suit them best. So, as I said, tonight's talk, we're not going to be talking specific products as such. We're going to be talking about more about the active ingredients. Right, so if you haven't met me before, my name's Dr. Leigh, and I have been a vet now for 18 years, and a lot of that time has actually been spent working with high-level performance horses, whether they've been elite race horses or 3-day eventers or polo ponies, endurance horses. I've done a lot. So during that part of my career, lameness and in particular joint disease was a massive thing, and so I've had plenty of experience using a lot of different products. I've also had a lot of experience actually doing some research with different products out there, and I'll go into that a little bit later. And I've also worked for drug companies, and I advise drug companies on some of the, like on some of their products, and to help the public, or the animal owning public, with questions related to those. So I've had quite a lot of experience with that side of things, and not to mention that I've also been using the products and everything with the small animals as well. So yeah, it's so I'm not exactly a learner when it comes to this sort of stuff. I've had a lot of experience across the years. I'm all bummed now because I had all these beautiful little titles to put up and everything, and now you're not going to see that. But anyways, say hi and no sound. Oh, sound. Sorry, I thought someone said there was no sound again. I was going to say, oh no, this is a nightmare. No, but let me see. Ask lots of questions. I see people are asking questions. Kate, great reactive ingredients. That's what we've been trying to work through and understand. Yeah, it can be it can be tough. Hey Glenn, hey James. Okay, Tracy, what are you asking here? Have been told that dogs can be given glucosamine. Is this correct? We'll go into that, Tracy. Definitely going to be talking a little bit about glucosamine. And yay, yes, Barb, we've got sound. But we don't have my nice little titles and my little pictures I was going to show you. So it's a bit of a bugger, but you guys will just have to, yeah, you'll just have to look at me instead. Okay, if a horse has had a tendon sheath infection who had surgery 6 months ago and is definitely a lot better, but any recommendations on what to use to help her going? Yeah, Shelley, this is more about joint supplements, not so much about tendon sheath problems. So it's quite a different disease process, unless of course you mean that she's had a joint infection. So some of these products will definitely help with joints, but not tendon sheaths. It's a totally different issue. So I would probably talk to your vet about that because it's totally different disease and a different process. So let me see. I'm just going to go through the spiel, and then I'll stop after each little topic. So I'm going to start with glucosamine, and then I'll talk about that, and then I will go on to answer some questions on that, and then we'll go through it and that way, if that's okay with everybody. And I don't have my little pictures to put up, but anyway, so one of the big things that I wanted to discuss was choosing a joint supplement and why you might want to do this in the first place. Because I think a lot of people think it's going to reverse the damage that's done. Now, some products can help and they stop further damage, but the majority of them are not going to stop any damage that's already there. So you're not going to see things like X-ray changes and that sort of thing. But it can definitely show that we can reduce future wear and tear, and we can relieve some of the symptoms of arthritis. We've also seen that some of the studies that have been out there have shown that joint supplements can build up the components of the joint fluid and even the cartilage and that sort of thing that have been worn away with arthritis. So that's pretty awesome. Now, much of the research and going through, I had a quick look again today at some of the studies out there, and honestly, guys, it's a quagmire of, a lot of them are just rubbish. I can't really say anything but, like, they are often subjective. There's no firm studies to show you put this product in and you're going to get a sound animal, because how the way they've tested it has just been a subjective questionnaire, and that can be really, really frustrating. Yeah, and a lot of it, and again, like a lot of things in sort of medicine, or well, not so much medicine, sorry, it's more about health supplements, which don't go through the same, they don't need the same requirements as a full-on drug. So they don't need to prove that they actually, well, they do need to prove to a certain extent that they can do something, but a lot of them don't. And so it's hard to look at some of these studies, and I even get wound up with it because, yeah, some of them are just terrible. Like, yeah, really, really hard to get your head around. So one of the things that's crucial to understand, it's not necessarily the product, it's what is the active ingredient in that product. So that's what we're going to talk about. So the first thing is glucosamine and chondroitin. Everybody's probably heard of them. They've been around for years. Humans, we've used it. There is a plethora of information out there about it. And so, yeah, do they work though? What we do know, and this is quite an interesting fact, is that osteoarthritis, it's slowly progressive, it's degenerative, and it's debilitating, and it affects about 20% of the canine or dog population, and I'm guessing it's going to be similar in horses. I don't have a value for that. And let's just remember why we want to help our pets and our horses, and that the fact is if your animal has arthritis, it debilitates them, and it has such a major effect on their quality of life, whether that's just their daily going about their day. So remember that a dog that's got hip arthritis and stifle knee arthritis, they might really struggle, and a cat actually as well, they might really struggle to go to the toilet. So it affects their play, it affects their behavior, and sometimes we just find that it gets to a stage, and I've had horses like this and dogs and cats where we might actually just decide that the kindest thing to do is to actually put our animals to sleep if they have severe arthritis. Vets will always basically say that non-steroidal anti-inflammatories are the mainstay, or you may hear people call it the gold standard of treatment for arthritis. Remember, when we talk about treatment, we're removing pain in that sort of respect, and we are trying to slow progression of disease, because a lot of these things we can't, we're not going to turn back time with arthritis, which is a bit of a pain when it comes to doing things. Now let's get on to glucosamine. So the main glucosamine product that we see in, the main glucosamine active ingredient that we see in the supplements is the hydrochloride one. So there's a sulfate as well, but in the small animal ones we often see the hydrochloride, and the equine ones we see the sulfate. Now it's interesting because the hydrochloride is actually really hard to absorb. So, and you need a lot more of it to actually get a good response. Well, any response, and we're talking about that even for humans. Now, what does glucosamine do? It basically regulates collagen in our cartilage. So collagen is that nice spongy stuff that links together, and it provides the cushion in the joint, and it also sometimes might provide a mild anti-inflammatory effect, whereas the chondroitin sulfate, that basically inhibits any of those destructive enzymes that get in there and into the fluid and into the cartilage. I don't know if you heard that, but that was a huge snore with Mordecai. Yeah. Anyways, so both together, they work synergistically to help produce glycosaminoglycans and proteoglycans, and we always have to remember that those are what we call the building blocks of cartilage. It's like They help, they are what's required for cartilage to form. Now, as I said to you before, there are a couple of different forms of glucosamine, and with small animals, we're often looking at the hydrochloric one, but absorption is really low, like it's between 5 to 12%. Horses, we often have the sulfate. Now, there is a massive lack of high quality research on the use of glucosamine in our pets, and it makes it incredibly hard to give you a good recommendation with regard to glucosamine and chondroitin. In fact, if you're a horse lover, and you own horses, go and have a read of David Ramey's work. He loves to talk about these products, and he doesn't have a lot of good things to say. As a veterinarian, years and years ago, when I had my practice in New Zealand, I was using glucosamine, and I had imported it. It had ticked every box, and then I got it tested, and it was sugar. So that's also an issue that we sometimes get with the lack of regulation with a lot of these products and what you buy. So be very careful what you buy, people. It's that cheap stuff, you know, which doesn't really have a label and someone's just stuck it on. It might not actually be anything. It might even be sugar or just something bizarre. So when we look at the studies that have been done for the glucosamine and chondroitin and a lot of other products, sometimes they can be really hard to interpret because every product's got a different manufacturer. There's the salt forms, so whether they're sulfate or hydrochloric, they're different compositions. They have different regimens where they're giving them to animals at different therapy type durations. It can be really, really hard to work out what's sort of going on. So I don't know. Again, this is my personal opinion, but I wouldn't really bother with a glucosamine or a chondroitin product because I just don't see, I've never been able to see a very good response with those products. Yeah, basically, I believe that there are better options out there. So let's have a little look here. I'm just going back through some of these questions. Let me see. Has anyone got any questions about glucosamine? Let me see. What's your chondroitin? Okay, Tam Thompson, what's your opinion on shark versus bovine chondroitin regarding molecular weight? I don't like chondroitin, full stop. I think it's I'm not convinced about it. I think having, there's no studies to say that it actually does a very good job. And like I said before, sometimes what we notice is that the people running the studies are the ones that actually are the marketers of that product. And so, yeah, they might just be twisting things a little bit to make it sound good. So I'm very aware of that. Now, I'm going to go on to talk about green-lip mussel. And I must admit, shark and bovine might be a little bit like that. I'm not totally over it with those two components. But even with green-lip mussel, there is a component which is like a chondroitin component. And so together with everything in that whole molecule, it works. And so there's a lot more study to be done, because is it the addition of all those things together that makes it work well, or is it the things in isolation? And that's something to sort of have a think about. So sorry I didn't really answer that well, Tam, but it's, yeah, chondroitin's a funny one. Yep, we'll be talking about pentosan. Okay, we're not really talking about specifics here. Happy to help you with your question if you give us a bell and through our consult service. So if anyone ever wants a personalised consult talking about their animal, head over to our website, which is yourvetonline.com. It's $49.95 to have a consult with us, and we can go through and do a video consult, or if you prefer, we can just do pictures and you can show us your x-rays, blood results, all that sort of thing. So if it's anything like that, then yes, specific stuff about your own animal. It needs to be a proper sort of consult rather than just giving advice over Facebook. Deb, what's this? I have a mare that constantly appears in foal. Oh, Deb, that's yeah, same sort of situation as Kate. We'll that's cool, Kate. If you want to ask us in a consult, we can definitely go through that with you. Okie dokie, let's get on, keep moving on. And the next active ingredient, and it is kind of a product in its own self, is green lip mussel. Now, I've had a lot of experience with green lip mussel. I was actually involved in the research project that was published in the Equine Vet Journal in horses. I organised all the trials, did all the trial work pretty much. Yeah, it was a full-on study that we did back in New Zealand. And what we did is we had horses that were on the product for, gosh, I can't remember now. I'm sure it might have been like 56 days. You can look up the study in the EVJ. It's in there. But we basically had a placebo group and a green lip mussel group. And I was completely blinded. I didn't know what product the people were getting. The owners of the horses didn't know. But it was really, there wasn't a lot of subjective stuff. We did joint samples, so I did lots of fetlock joint samples, which was really fun. We took x-rays. We also, we did video analysis of gait, and we did the subjective analysis, which was myself looking at lameness scores. Now, we did have a few issues, and if we were to do it again, yeah, it would be great to do it nowadays with some of the technology that we have. But one of the things that I can absolutely say with conviction is that green lip mussel works. It is amazing stuff. It's a nutritional supplement that's from the green lip mussel, which is native to New Zealand, my hometown, my home country. Yeah, so, and it's pretty awesome. And there's a lot, look, we could go into how it works, but basically it's made up of a whole lot of stuff like omega-3 fatty acids. It has anti-inflammatory components to it, and it has joint protecting properties to it as well. And it's amazing. Like, these horses, because we needed horses that had a fetlock arthritis, so it was quite interesting because a lot of them were old. You know, we had these horses which were 20 plus years old, and the change in these horses was phenomenal. Like, honestly, their coat improved, their hooves improved. I had one horse that had heaves, even his heaves improved. So whether that was other things as well, like maybe it's because he was, you know, some of these horses might have been getting a little bit more food, because of course they had to have a little bit of food to be able to get the powder, who knows. But that aside, their lameness scores and their function just improved out of sight. Now, there is a little bit of a problem with green lip mussel. Not every green lip mussel is equal. There are some manufacturing considerations we have to be careful about. I'm going to write an article on this, and I will put that all in the article. It's a bit too complicated to go into here, but I will pop that in the article, and I'll absolutely make sure you guys get a link. So even just message me or put a note just there if you want me to PM you once I've written that, just so that you can have the article and you can have a look. But yeah, not all green lip mussels are the same. Now, a little bit, this is going to sound really funny, but we've got green lip mussel actually does also contain your glucosamines and your chondroitin, and it has all these amino acids, and it's got these like antioxidants, and it can affect yeah, it's one of these amazing products. And it actually not only does it help with building blocks, it also, of the joint fluid and the joint cartilage, it can also act on the pain receptors, and it has some anti-inflammatory effects with COX-1 and COX-2. So it is really, really interesting. And it's a product that's quite well tolerated. You will have to be a little bit careful if you've got animals that might have fish allergies or anything like that. But hey, it works. So I absolutely love it. And if you can't tell that I love it from this, there's yeah, there's something wrong. But I had one of my racing stables, one of the biggest racing stables in New Zealand. I had them all on it, and I nearly did myself out of a job injecting joints. That's how good it was. Yeah, these horses really, really improved with their joint health. We saw reduction in swelling. We saw improved flexion, definitely lack of pain, improved lameness scores. Yeah, no, it's pretty awesome. I love it. Right, I'm just going to have a quick look. Option, Kim Cartwright, your option on anti-arthritis supplements for older cats. Look, green lip mussel will be a good one for cats. Like that, yeah, absolutely. Because what we're, there are some other products that we can use in cats, but they are off-label. We'll be talking about that next. But yeah, talk to your vet. But if you want an off-the-shelf product, yeah, definitely a green lip mussel product would be perfect for cats. Also do that. Haha, Kate, yes. Okay, no worries. Might take me a little while to write it, but do not worry. I will be posting it when I've done that. So, yeah. Right, I am going to, oh, Julie, I'm sorry, we're just talking about joint supplements tonight. So we won't discuss raw or kibble. There is an article that I've written last week, maybe it was the week before, discussing that. Hey, diet, raw or kibble, whatever you feel like, just do it properly. You know, it's, yeah. But there's some key things that you got to realize. Just like everything, marketing can come into it. So yeah, our marketers can be a little bit problematic, I think one might say. So yeah. Hey Crystal, lovely to see you. Right, let's get back and let's talk about pentosan polysulfate. Now, so pentosan polysulfate sodium, or pentosan, is basically a semi-synthetic drug, and it comes from beechwood. So often you get asked, you know, lots of vets get asked, oh, you know, my animal's allergic to beef, chicken, you know, fish, whatever. Can I give it pentosan? Yep. absolutely no issues with that. Pentosan, remember guys, there's lots of different products. I'm not talking about the product pentosan, I'm talking about the active ingredient pentosan. But basically, they're all much of a muchness. So, yeah, there's a few different ones out there. And I know that even overseas, like, yeah, there's heaps. Now, one of the key things to remember with pentosan polysulfate is that it does not possess analgesic activity. So that means it doesn't have an effect on pain. But that doesn't mean it doesn't stop pain. So what it does, it basically works by modifying and correcting those imbalances within the joint fluid in an animal that's got osteoarthritis, so that it does provide relief over time. And you might not see a result just like that. You know, it might take a little while to see it. And often the recommendations for pentosan polysulfate is that you give weekly injections to build up a level that occurs in the joint, and then you top up as required. Now, I'm having worked, as I said, with high performance racehorses, I'm used to giving pentosan weekly for our horses that are racing. I think that there's no harm in doing that, absolutely none whatsoever. I think it's also a really good drug to use for as a preventative. So in those animals, so those younger animals that might be a little bit prone to hip dysplasia, they might have OCD somewhere, like our dogs with elbow dysplasia. Young horses when they are starting out, just starting to race, or you're bringing them into work, you know, it's ideal for those horses as much as it's good for those older horses. So what we often see is an improvement. Now, actually, I'll just say Wayne McElraith, who is Professor Wayne McElraith, is one of the leading veterinarians in the world when it comes to joint disease, and he has done a lot of the studies related to pentosan polysulfate. And so if you are Googling and you want to know real facts and not some rubbish, Google Wayne McElraith and pop in pentosan or something like that, and then you'll see good studies. And actually, I should mention as well, try to look at, don't just read articles, unless they come from me, of course. Try and read studies done by, and that are published, you know, they're in PubMed. So go to PubMed or Google Scholar and see what you can find in those areas, because sometimes I think what happens is we read these blogs, not your vet online blogs, because of course I'm amazing, but there might be blogs that are written by people that do not have the expertise. So just be very careful what you're reading out there. But yeah, as I said, there have been studies to show that pentosan polysulfate can actually decrease articular cartilage fibrillation, and fibrillation is where the cartilage is actually tearing, and it's like got little fibrils. And if you're going to do, I used to work in a surgery, an equine surgery, and when you looked at these joints, the cartilage kind of, instead of being beautiful and smooth, it was another massive snore, it was all fluffy, and you could see the little fibrils, and that's the signs of, you know, arthritis and damage. So often, yeah, there's definitely significant improvement with that, and there's, yeah, the cartilage itself is healthier. And when these animals had other tests done to them, so it might be like the lameness scores, joint flexion, joint protein concentration, that's a good one. They do show improvement, but some of it isn't statistically improved. So that's one of those things which can be harder to prove. So just realize that. So yeah, pentosan is one of those products which is a really good product to use. I'm one of those believers that you don't wait too long to keep topping it up. I think a lot of people go over. I think there's a lot of people give one injection every 6 months, and I think that tends to be a little bit long if you actually want to see really good improvement. And so yeah, definitely not a, I'm a more than less girl when it comes to pentosan. Krista, what have you asked? How long have you been doing this working for a vet for? Well, I am a vet, and I've been a vet now for, 2018? 18 years. Yeah. So I finished my degree in, end of October, November 2000. So yeah, I know I'm showing my age, but anyways. So what is my next one that we're going to talk about? My next one I'm going to talk about is omega-3. All right, so if you've got any questions, make sure you pop them in the the little comment box there, so then I can answer them at the end or after this. But anyway, right, so omega-3. Now this has become one of those really, really popular nutritional supplements, and you might hear of it being called fish oil. Yeah, I am a lover of omega-3 personally. Some of the studies for it, again, are a little bit dodgy. So what is it about it? Okay, so there's two parts to omega-3. There's the EPA part as well as the DHA part, and I am not going to try and pronounce the proper names because I've got no clue how to pronounce them. And basically, yeah, there's a whole lot of things that we've been doing with omega-3 that we've shown that it helps decrease inflammation, and it does that by working on pathways related to that inflammation. So I often use it with in any animals that have got skin problems, because it works really well in that. We often are using it more and more with brain disease, and again, joint disease. Now, I've taken it myself, and I can notice a real change. And I don't want to compare myself with animals, because we must remember that we are different for a lot of things. But just saying, I have looked at some of the research for it for humans, and it's kind of similar a little bit when it comes to joints. I know myself, when I take a particular brand, I see really good results. Again, omega-3 oil and fish oil is one of those products, well, one of those substances, I should say, an active ingredient, should I say, that it really depends on the formulation, and it depends how it's kept. As you can probably appreciate, it can go rancid, affected by light. The processing of it can cause issues. And again, this is where it's really hard to do these studies, because yeah, there's heaps and heaps of potential confounding factors when you when you look at that sort of thing. So yeah, the studies to date have been not that great, because one, just those things I've mentioned. Also, a lot of the studies are very subjective, and I I just wish everyone wouldn't even bother with subjective studies. I mean, who, just because, like, I've seen with, okay, so take for example, back in the day when I did this greenlit mussel research project, I had one person that thought their horse was completely sound, was amazing after they had been on the product. It actually turned, I couldn't see any difference. All our videos and everything proved that actually, no, this horse was no different, and they were convinced it was 100% improved. They were on the placebo. So sometimes we do also exert a placebo effect on our animals. So I think when we're looking at these studies, it's a really good idea to check whether they are a subjective study or whether they're an objective study dealing with facts. Did they draw out joint fluid? Did they test that? Did they actually put the animals on a force plate meter? So, you know, maybe they were checking, or it might be a lameness meter of some sort. We've got such good technology now. So, yeah, it would be great to see that those sorts of technologies utilised more. We've got to remember they went around like even a couple of years ago. So we can't blame anyone for this. But now that we've got these techniques, we want to start seeing some improved research on these products. So, yeah, omega-3, I definitely don't think you're going to do any harm by using that with your animals. But the studies just haven't quite caught up to anything. So, yeah. Right, no comments on that one. Let's have a look. What else are we going to talk about? So I guess I just wanted to finish up a little bit and talk about whether I should use a joint supplement. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think the biggest issue, as I hope you've understood, is that there is a lot of lacking clinical evidence. And like everything in medicine as well, a lot of the research is done by the company that actually produces the product. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It just means you've got to be a little bit smarter with the way you analyze what they've done and have a really good look and see whether some of their findings actually tally up with the results they actually got. I think a lot of the time, you know, a client will come to me and say, I want to use this product, what do you think? And the vet or myself will say, yeah, no issues, it won't do any harm. That's a very common comment. It doesn't mean that that vet necessarily agrees that that product's a good product. It just means it won't do any harm. So I think we need to understand that, and if you're going to be talking, you know, if you want to use a product, definitely have a proper conversation with your veterinarian. Ask them what they like, what they dislike, talk about studies. You can ask us. We're happy to have a consult with you and discuss the needs of your animal. You can do that via yourvetonline.com. But yeah, there's definitely, every vet is going to have their personal views of what works and what doesn't. And I guess the bottom line is, try it for 3 months. And if you don't see any result or nothing has changed, stop. Yeah, try something else. Don't keep using something and you're not like seeing a result. You're going to see the biggest results right at the beginning, because what I noticed, I always remember one of my racing stables, they actually were using the greenlit mussel product, and then they sort of said, oh, it doesn't work anymore. So they stopped. And by the time it had washed out, they were like, eek, it was working. We just didn't notice. So yeah, the first 3 months are going to give you an idea of whether a product actually works or it doesn't, because after that, sometimes because you're not seeing massive change, it can be hard to determine that. But if you're not getting a result with one type of product, change brands or change actives, because sometimes it's a problem with the formulation, sometimes the processing of the product might be different. And again, you can always give us a bell and we can help you on a more personal level. We can go through the issues that you might be having with your animal, whether it's a horse, a cat, a dog. And yeah, let me see. Kate, what are you asking? Hang on, is plant or fish-based omega better? Yeah, I'm more of a fan of the fish-based omegas. That's a personal opinion. Yeah, they're animal proteins, fish protein. It's a more I did a lot of reading on this like years ago, so bear with me, but I seem to remember that it's more absorbed and it's better. Yeah, definitely a better type of absorption rather than the plant-based stuff. And yeah, I'm not really a fan of like the flaxseed and all that sort of stuff. I think the fish oils are a better product. Definitely. All right then, guys. Well, that was good for a take 2. Sorry we had those issues earlier. If you've got more questions, then pop them down below and we'll see. And then I think, is it the first? Yeah. Oh, what's this? What about for horses? How do they cope by EPA? I'm not sure what you mean by, oh, hang on, with not by what? What about for horses? How do they cope? What's ALA, Tam? I'm not understanding that one. Horses are fine with, yeah, with the fish oils. Like, there's a lot of products like that. They don't seem to be affected at all. Green mussel's fine in horses, as we know. Yeah, apple cider vinegar, I'm not a fan. Yeah. Ooh, I'm feeling a bit dumb now. I should have known that. Yeah, as I was just saying before, Tam, I'm more of a fan of the fish-based products. That's a personal opinion. Again, when I write this article, I will actually do a little bit more study for you, and I'll hopefully come up with some better facts and figures for you, and I'll pop that in that, because that's a really good question. I've always been a fan more of the fish omegas rather than a plant-based omega, even for human work. So yeah, righty ho then, guys. I hope that was helpful. Remember, bottom line, if you're not seeing any improvement, stop, change brand, change product, change active. And oh, someone gave me a negative. That's a bit of an angry one. Oh well. Can't please everyone, obviously. So yeah, anyways, have a great evening. I'm going to go and have some dinner. I'm babysitting Mordecai tonight. Mordecai, I was going to say, get him to say hello, but he's actually out to it. I took him for a massive walk before we did this tonight, and he just hooned it. He had all his mates down at the park, and he, yeah, you know, it's quite funny, and I know this has got nothing to do with what we're talking about, but going to the park with the dog is like going to the park with your children. It's like you have this little groupie thing happening, and you know, Friday night, there's no pub for me, it's down the park with the dog park. Anyways, all right then, guys, that was a bit of rubbish I was just talking, but glad you enjoyed it. I'll try and pump out a article on it. Don't forget what I said before about if you're researching this yourself, try and use Google Scholar or PubChris. You want to try and get good knowledge, not someone who's got no experience whatsoever, and is, or when I say no experience, I mean they're not nutritionists, they're not a veterinarian, you know, they're not a scientist. You want to have people that are I thought you'd be able to hear him, Tracy. Yeah. So yeah, please make sure you do your research properly. I know sometimes people don't agree with what I say. That's cool. I've spent a long time trying to sift through the, shall we say, shit from clay. I do have strong opinions on some of these things. Doesn't mean I'm always right, but I don't want to see people wasting their money and getting fleeced by unscrupulous people. So I should probably leave it there before I get too controversial. All right then, guys, you guys have a great evening, and hopefully the sound will work next time and we'll be back on my normal system with all my pretty pictures and things that I had planned. Anyway, guys, good one. Have a good one. Bye.